if you were a trick-or-treater right now, just pretend you're a small child and it wouldn't be weird if you went up to a door.
Thank God.
What would be your favorite candy that someone gave you?
Jocelyn.
I'm definitely grabbing as many Almond Joys as I can see.
Almond Joys? What? That's the hottest take I've heard in this room ever.
Take that take.
Hot candy topic.
Almond Joys?
There's like this surprise nugget on the top.
Which is an
Surprise.
almond.
You actually have to plan out how you're going to eat an Almond Joy just to be able to get some nut
I don't think
in every bite.
I don't think surprise nugget is a term that anyone wants when relating to
Nobody wants a surprise nugget.
Okay, yeah, because if I get a Mounds, I'm pissed. So
What?
I want the nugget.
Gosh, wow.
Almond Joy.
Not a friggin' Almond Joy. Reese's Cups.
Okay.
I'm a big
Would
Reese's
you like the
Cups
flat
guy.
ones or the little ones? Or do you like the pumpkins?
Ooh, pumpkin's got too much peanut butter.
It does.
I'm an OG Reese's Cups guy.
But is it the flat ones or the little small ones? You know?
Like the minis or like the regular cup?
The one that looks like pucks.
Oh.
The regular, just original
Yeah.
cup.
I also like the white chocolate version of those.
Oh.
Super sweet.
Those are
very, very
so
sweet.
Those are very sweet.
good.
I'm glad that you think the pumpkins have too much peanut butter, though.
And they're
better
not
than a-
gluten-free.
Better than an Almond Joy.
Yeah, that's fair. I'd personally go for like a Twix or something, but
Also
Left
not
side or right
gluten-free.
side?
I don't think there's a difference. Is there actually a difference?
In this
There's
economy,
a huge difference.
Hey, there's no way around. I'm top of the mount. I'm queen of the mountain. My cup running over. I already told ya. I'm moving fast. You live in the past.
What's going on, hockey fans? Peter from YHH here. Episode number 2 of the Women's Hockey Pod. I am alongside Jocelyn Cookson, former all-everything Jefferson Jaguar and University of Wisconsin-Madison superstar. Josie, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
We had a fantastic interview tonight with Savannah Norcross, and she blew my mind.
I'm a major fan.
She was fantastic. She was so candid. She was so well-spoken. She said she was going to yap before we put on the microphones, and yap away she did, which makes our jobs really easy. So I was really pleased with how that came out. What about you?
Yeah, I was excited because it was one of my first interviews, our second episode, so I wasn't sure what to expect, but she was a great interviewee, and I will hope to continue to be a fan of hers and follow her career here for the next, presumably, 10 years.
Hopefully 10 years. We are going to hold you to it, Savannah. We do want a Savannah Norcross jersey to hang up in our little jersey room, but that's somewhere down the road. We're going to get started. We're going to run down some NCAA Division I, a little bit of roundup here. We're going to start with the highest rated Minnesota team all the way down to, I'd say, the bottom, but we've got a few teams that aren't ranked, so those are just in random order. We're going to start with the third ranked Minnesota Golden Gophers. The Gophers 6-3-1 responding to a sweep by Wisconsin with an 8-2 and 3-2 wins over Minnesota State University Mankato. 23-24 Hockey East Player of the Year in Vermont transfer Natalie Milenko. You know, the University of Minnesota website used to have like a little ear next to people's names on the rosters, and it would tell you how to pronounce it. So is it Milenkova, Sam? All right. Milenkova leads the way with 2 goals and 1 assist on Friday, and Peyton Hemp scores twice in Saturday's win. Jocelyn, are you surprised at all with Minnesota bouncing back? You and Tony were beaking pretty hard about the sweep against Wisconsin.
Well, yeah, I've seen Minnesota hover like in between 3 and 5. So it's like feeling like maybe there's something missing right now in their season. Something's just not coming together. It was interesting to see them lose 5-0 against Wisconsin because it's such a great rivalry, and rarely do one or the other team really have like such a big night, and let alone a shutout. So to come back with a big win against MSU, I was expecting, but then to see the second game be such a close game, I thought that was great for MSU. I love seeing that for MSU. But again, I think Minnesota's missing something right now. There's something missing. I'm not sure what it is. I need to see him in a few more series.
Do you think that the close game says more about MSU or more about the Golden Gophers?
I'm thinking potentially right now more about the Gophers, because if you think about their second game against Wisconsin, they threw away a 3-0 lead in that second game. So right now it's pulling together a full weekend. Is there some sort of attitudes in the locker room or something like that that's causing, some sort of falling apart throughout the course of the weekend, or it seems like there's something that they need to get squared away before they're going to be competitive, which they will be. I mean, by the time the games matter, they're going to play Wisconsin again. Will Wisconsin be able to show up like that? Who knows? But Minnesota will likely get it together over the course of the next.
For sure. It's still early. I mean, it's not even Halloween yet.
Yeah.
Minnesota Duluth, ranked number 4. The Bulldogs off last weekend will face the aforementioned Mankato State. Actually, Minnesota State University Mankato. I'm going to get that right eventually. They will play on November 1st and November 2nd. That will be this weekend. The Bulldogs 4-1 in games decided by 2 goals or fewer. As a player with your experience, what do you attribute that to, Jossie? Is it an inability for the Bulldogs to pull away from opponents, or is it simply the Bulldogs finding a way to win in close games?
Yeah, I mean, to me that seems like maybe a roster with a lot of grit. And I think you probably have to have that to be able to live up in Duluth all year long. Or all winter long.
What's wrong with Duluth?
It's cold.
It's cold here, too.
It's colder up there.
It's cold. Why is it colder up there?
The lake.
The lake? All right, fine. We won't send you to Duluth for
Yeah,
anything this year.
I try to avoid Duluth most of the winter if I can, except for Brentleyville. But, yeah, I think that potentially that's just a team that's got some discipline. Like, you're going to play a little bit more tough defensively when you do get a 2-goal lead, or when you do have a lead that's a small lead there. So you're not necessarily going to take risks. You're not necessarily going to be trying, and Minnesota Duluth's roster is not necessarily going to be filled with some of our top leading goal scorers that we're used to reading about. So it's going to be a team that's going to have players that are going to play more system-based and try to play disciplined.
And they're going to have to find a way to win. Like you said, they might not have a superstar scoring machine, so they're going to have to find a way to grind out wins like they've been doing. St. Cloud State at number 8. That's exciting for the Huskies. Over the weekend, the Huskies tied St. Thomas 1-1 and then beat the Tommies 3-1. Several penalties in game 2 highlighted, or low-lighted, I should say, including a direct contact to the head penalty against St. Cloud State's Marie Moran. Do you think that there is a budding rivalry between St. Cloud State University and the University of St. Thomas?
I would say indubitably.
Indubitably.
Right now there's just such big success in Minnesota at these schools, and we're just pumping players out of high school. And a lot of these people have played against each other for a decade. And so some of these rivalries between players and specifically may be stemming from prior, rivalries. But yeah, as we see more and more Minnesota schools having big success and moving up the rankings, the games are going to get a little bit more intense. But also with the PWHL platform and watching the game at that level,
it's a little physical.
I think that the league is like steering women more toward a more physical game. They're letting women get away with a lot more physical play. So we were just going to see more heavy physical play.
And I like that. I think that when you get to a certain level, I think women are more than capable of playing a physical game and knowing what is quote unquote safe or not safe. And I'm pretty sure they can handle themselves. I mean, you don't get to this level without being an elite skater and having elite balance. So.
Well, and it's and then it's what are you doing off the ice? I mean, like, what are you doing in the weight room? Because, and what kind of lifestyle choices you're making, because it gives you another advantage if you have some discipline off the ice as well. And some of these women are beasts. I mean, they're in the locker room or in the weight room putting up a lot of weight. So, yeah, like they're training hard. Like we can use that as part of our game. We don't need to just make sure we all have a bubble around us.
100%. So St. Cloud State 7-1-2 so far, but the wins have come against the likes of Lindenwood, Mercyhurst, which at the time I think was ranked either 15th or received votes in the USCHO poll. Bemidji State and St. Thomas. How much are we going to find out about the Huskies when they take on top-ranked Wisconsin?
It's going to be a tough day.
You think so?
Wisconsin's a tough one. I mean, say Ohio, say another team. Right now, Wisconsin is on fire.
You got no faith in the Huskies?
I do have faith in the Huskies, but when you ask me about Wisconsin, They haven't left the number 1 spot all season. They're undefeated, and they're on fire. I mean, it might be a tough day for St. Cloud State, maybe.
All right. Do you think that if St. Cloud State can keep it close, is that a moral victory?
I think that's a win. Yeah, like
Okay.
if you can see if you can see St. Cloud State putting points on the board, even like strong special teams, a goaltender that can stay focused and strong in the net.
Yeah.
Those are all huge good signs early in the season.
Well, and Sani Ahola, I don't know if there's a better goaltender in the country than the one the Huskies have right now. Minnesota State 2-4 entering this weekend, losing last weekend, as we explained, against number 3 Minnesota. It's been a bit of a tale of two teams for Minnesota State, so I want to get your opinion. Which one is real? The one that got pounded 8-2 or the one that took Minnesota to overtime?
It's right in between there, but closer probably to this overtime team. I would say there's a likelihood that some of these girls had a lot of nerves on Friday because there's a young team. I think MSU is a young team, and Minnesota's just daunting. To come back when they're not on their heels after a game under their belt in the series and take them to overtime is probably a lot more indicative of their potential. But I know they've got a deep roster full of Minnesota players, so lots of talent and passion.
What is it about those Minnesota players? Because you've mentioned that a couple of times off air, that teams need more Minnesota players.
Well, first of all, I feel like in a time of the game where there's like social media, like there's a lot more prevalent exposure for a lot of these players outside of Minnesota. So it's nice to see more opportunities for these girls, and I think partly some of the coverage companies like YHH do.
What's up? Shout out.
Help them get exposed to more schools out east and things like that. But currently with some of the local colleges going D1, it's like a candy shop for some of these Minnesota players that might have been more restricted in where they were going to be able to play, having more opportunities closer by.
Yeah, well, one of those programs would be St. Thomas, which is fairly new to the Division I seed, and they're picking off Minnesota players left and right. St. Thomas tied and lost with SCSU over the weekend. All 5 of the team's leading scorers are Minnesotans: Chloe Barine, Riley Bartz, Maddie Brown, Kara Sajovic, and Lauren Stensley. I'm going to play a little quiz with you here, Jossie, just off the top of my head. Can you tell me where those players went to high school?
Hill Murray.
For Barine.
Riley Bartz played at Andover. Maddie Brown, that's actually giving me like Blake vibes.
Okay, Kara Sajovic.
Kara Sajovic, she played up north. No, she played Maple Grove. And I don't know Lauren Stensley.
Gotcha.
1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. I'm guessing Hastings.
Okay. Do you that's the final answers on those?
D.
I'm going to go D. Riley Bartz, Warroad.
I knew it.
Maddie Brown, Andover.
I did say Andover.
For Riley Bartz. Kara Sajovic, Gentry Academy.
I knew it.
And Lauren Stensley, Maple Grove.
I was like in the wheelhouse on some of these. I mean, I guess cities in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Didn't we interview Maddie Brown last year?
We interviewed
for the
Chloe
state tournament.
We interviewed Chloe Barine last year for the state tournament. We interviewed Riley Bartz as a player of the year. We interviewed Maddie Brown at some point. We interviewed
for state tournament.
For state tournament. We interviewed Kara Sajovic.
Yep.
Was it player of the year? It was player of the year or state tournament. And I feel like we interviewed Lauren Stensley at some point. Good for us.
That's
man.
what I'm talking about.
Thanks for playing along, Joss. I know I threw you into the fire there.
No, that's good. Like I said, I named a few with cities in Minnesota, so I'm feeling confident.
Bemidji State 1-8-1
I'm always
right
a fan
now.
of the Beavs.
They've been the last 2 games they got shut out 4-0 and 6-0 against top-ranked Wisconsin. The team only has 14 goals in 10 games. Who do you think would be a player from this Bemidji State roster that could spark the offense and help turn that trend around?
Well, it's probably going to take more than that player for Bemidji. I think there's going to need to be I mean, there's probably going to need to be a line. They're going to need a little more than a player probably to help turn that around.
You think they might need 3 or 4?
I'm thinking they've got some room for growth, but I love seeing the league grow, and inevitably there's going to be teams that are on one end of the spectrum. So if you're a Bemidji team with 10 goals in 14 games, there's always somewhere to look up to get to.
Alrighty, I'm going to peg Alyssa Watkins as a player that could turn this around. 2 goals in 8 games for the Beavers. Looks like she's missed a couple of games, but I wonder if she had 2 more games under her belt, could she end up with 3 goals, maybe 4 goals? Haley Armstrong leads the team in scoring right now with 4 goals. In anybody's race for the goal-scoring lead, I think it could be Alyssa Watkins, the Proctor Hermantown product.
And here's something I'd like to see. I know there's a couple transfers into Bemidji, specifically Isa Gettle, who I loved watching in high school.
She would be your type of player.
She was hugely influential in high school, in the state tournament, in Andover seasons. So she has made a change. So there must have been something that wasn't right at the U for her. So I really would love to see her have a breakout season because I know she's a great player. And I think when players do transfer, that's a great opportunity for them to kind of come around and show that they've got what it takes. And I would love to see her do that.
We should not end a Bemidji State Caps without mentioning former Centennial goaltender Caitlin Gross. She's got a save percentage of .916 and a goals against average of 2.88, despite facing probably more shots than literally anybody else possibly in the country.
Yeah.
Alrighty, NCAA Division III MIAC play begins this weekend. I'm going to save a nugget about your alma mater, Augsburg, and I'm going to bring up St. Mary's University. New coach Heath Isaacson, and Reese Heitzman is back for her sophomore season after lighting up the league last year with 17 goals. She's the highest scoring returner, just behind Gustavus's Haley Holland last season. Haley Holland had the most points last year. Heitzman was just behind her with 17 goals. I'm excited to watch the Cardinals. St. Olaf brings back last year's MIAC assist leader, Solveig Berg Messerol. I hope I'm saying that correctly. That's a heck of a name you got there, Solveig. She was second in total points behind Haley Holland. And I'm going to let you read the little capsule about Augsburg, seeing as you are a former Augie.
Okay, so Augsburg is playing 2020 grad of Eau Claire, second highest returning MIAC scorer, Emily Cronkite from Egan. So is she transferring into Augsburg? Or is she?
Sorry, the note is HC. Head coach is a 2020
head
grad.
Coach. Ah, yes.
Sorry
okay,
about that. My shorthand.
Because now I'm getting
is a little messed up.
From her.
Elizabeth Bauer.
Yeah.
Biz Bauer.
Yes. Yeah. So now she's sending all of our Glow Golf emails and alumni game emails. So this is her big first season. Exciting year for Augsburg. Augsburg's moving up the ranks year over year. It's really fun to see them competitive. But I also wanted to note Hamlin, who maybe hasn't been someone that we've been watching necessarily, but they did pick up a couple of D1 transfers.
Who is that? Can you tell me a little bit about the transfers?
Well, what I do know about the transfers are
you have an incredible spreadsheet, by the way.
Their names and where they came from. So let's see, Kylie Huseth from Franklin Pierce. Played at Elk River in high school, and Isla Rieskamp from Orono, who played at Sacred Heart before coming over to Hamlin. So, again, made a move, D1, D3, and that could be pretty impactful for Hamlin. So I'm excited to see what they can do with that.
Well, Rieskamp was a Miss Hockey finalist her senior year at Orono. She is all speed all the time, so that is a huge bump for Hamlin. Thank you for doing the dirty work on the transfers, by the way. You told me you went to every team's roster and just looked at it to see if there were transfers?
Right. I looked at every single college hockey team's roster.
Good Lord.
D1 and D3. And I looked at who was from Minnesota. And in some cases, it shows where they played last year. So if they played at a different school last year, then I considered them a transfer.
Making me look bad here, Joss.
Well, yeah. I mean,
shrugs.
What can I say?
Alrighty, the PWHL doesn't get started for another 3 weeks.
Get your schedule out.
How does this not start until November 20th?
Forever.
The first game on the docket for Minnesota is going to be Minnesota and Toronto at 2:15 Wednesday, November 20th. I just have a few random general questions for you
Bring
about
it
the
on.
PWHL because we're not quite close enough yet for a full league preview. So does it feel, how many games did you go to last year?
I went to,
Let's see if you're an ally.
I think I went to 3 games. And I would have loved to have gone to more, but I really spread myself pretty thin as it is. But they did a good job of having games on the weekends, in the afternoon. Like, I mean, they made it accessible definitely for fans.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the novelty has worn off at all from the league?
I don't think so, especially because they just rebranded a bunch of the teams this year. There's been some drama. There's, unfortunately, the first season was so short, felt like, and now we've been on a break for what feels like forever.
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of like, we need to keep it out front and center. Some of the publicity has been almost negative since the draft. So I wouldn't say the novelty is worn off. I think that it's just a lot of people trying to figure out their identity right now. The league trying to figure out its identity right now.
It feels a little bit like we're going back to school after a summer break, and nobody is in mid-season form right now. Everybody, fans included, are going to have to get back into the habit of going to downtown St. Paul and getting into the XL Energy Center. In your opinion, as a player with an extensive history in the game, and apparently you're going to make a run at a roster this season, how does the league build off of last year? It felt like everything went pretty well. I mean, the Walter Cup went off, the Minnesota wins, the big trophy. Where does the league go from here?
Okay, the league needs to see some more like fanfare. So like more goals.
Okay.
Figure out a way to get more goals.
Sellying.
More sellies.
They need to selly. That's
More
my opinion.
sellying?
Yeah, like
They
more,
don't selly.
more goals, more
they not?
sellies.
They like. I feel like that's like a social thing. though.
Yeah, it's
like if
this
you look
women's
at girls'
hockey.
youth hockey, it's kind of like I feel like fans love the selly.
Fans come for the sellies. Yeah, there's less scoring, less sellies for sure, but the women's hockey player tend to be a humble kind, and they're not that big on like promoting stats, but we want to see more of that like aura, that like kind of hot shit aura, you know? Because
Hot shit
those
aura.
girls are scoring. The girls with the hot shit aura, they're
HSA
scoring.
doesn't stand for health savings accounts anymore. It stands for hot shit.
Well,
hot
you will
shit
ask
aura.
Savannah about it.
We will. I got one more question for you regarding the PWHL, and then we will throw it to our episode closing fabulous interview with Savannah Norcross. Who, if anyone, it could be a league, it could be an individual, man, woman, child, dog, whatever, who would you like to see more involved in the PWHL? Who do you think could
Okay, right
really
now,
give it a zing?
Somebody with like a really, really robust resume in just like operations. Honestly,
Like who?
I don't have enough information to know who could be this, but like somebody with like a CEO, I mean, somebody that can come in and say, we're going to schedule the season in a way that makes sense. We're going to roll out new swag in a way that makes sense. You know, somebody that's either done this before, currently doing it for another league, or who has just extensive background in some of this operation. So right now, I think we've done a really nice job of giving the limelight to people pioneers really who've just sacrificed a lot and given a lot to the game to get it to this point. But I think it's going to be time to move on from that and run it more like a business and run it more like, you know, we want to be treated like the NHL or the men's leagues. We want to be run like the men's leagues too. So I don't know if that's the same mindset for everybody, but I think that the league is a great league with a lot of opportunity, but it really needs somebody to take the bull by the horns and say, here's how we're going to get to the next level.
All righty. One of those players that will certainly help the PWHL get to the next level is Savannah Norcross. We hope that you enjoy this interview as much as we did. Kayla, roll the Savannah Norcross interview.
All right, we're here with Savannah Norcross from the New York Sirens. We're really excited you're here. Hello.
Thanks for having me. I'm pumped to be here.
Awesome. So you're in between ice time and a team Zoom, and we're gonna try to get as much as we can done here before you've got to be there. So, well, first, I became a huge fan this summer at the WD League. So, what are your thoughts? What was it like playing kind of in the big leagues over the summer?
Yeah, it was so awesome to have something finally organized for us to stay competitive in the summer. I know Nate Schmidt had a huge drive when it came to that, and we would schedule ice in Roseville and on Wednesday nights anyways, like the past couple summers. So when he had caught wind of that, he was like, we might as well just start a women's deputy league and have a trophy and cup for it and stuff. So
Yeah, it's really fun. You were a majorly influential player for the winning team. So you actually scored the game-winning goal.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough to be out there with one of, if not the best hockey player in the world right now. So it's easy to play with someone like Taylor Heisey.
Well, that's a very humble opinion, but it was really fun to watch you this summer. Like I said, I became a major fan. Majority of your hockey career has been out east, although you do have some Minnesota ties. So I would like to know a little bit about what got you into hockey. I mean, being a Boston girl, and what started your love of hockey or starting hockey?
Yeah, I mean, I danced growing up. I actually was a really good tap dancer and had gone to like nationals and stuff like that for tap and ballet and every genre of dance. So when my mom was taking my brother to like in-house is what we would call it, and starting him up. And the story is that I was pulling on my mom's jeans and jackets. What about me? What about me? I just kept saying, what about me? And she was like, okay, I guess I'll write another check. Hopefully it doesn't bounce, and you can play too. So that's kind of how it all started. And then I slowly, Santa brought a bunch of equipment that other Santa mom did not know about. And that's kind of how it started, and slowly stopped going to dance. And yeah, that's basically the
that
story.
is a great story. I love that. Yeah, I mean, so many girls are just kind of directed into dance, right? Dance or softball, or it's not as typical to just start in hockey. So it's an older brother, or a dad, or something like that.
My brother's actually younger than me. So, and my mom danced growing up. My mom's brothers were unbelievable hockey players, and then my dad played hockey too, but he was a gifted athlete in football, basketball, and baseball, and played football and baseball at Boston College too. So I just kind of have blessed genetics.
Athletics are in the genetics, and somehow you still landed on hockey, and you've made it to the world's top stage.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean,
Incredible.
I'm super grateful for all the support I've had along the way. There's been so many people that have contributed to my success. So.
Oh, that's really neat.
Did you love dance?
No, I did. I love dance. I definitely think there was a social aspect of it. My dad says till this day that he thinks that like my skating ability came from like doing so much ballet and just being coordinated at a young age. And I did do a little gymnastics too, but definitely the ballet I for sure think has contributed to just basic coordination at such a young age. Picking up skating wasn't hard for me.
During that initial transition, did you find dance or hockey, for lack of a better term, easier? Because dance, even at a young age, is so technical and so precise. And hockey, you can get a little more rough and tumble. So was it a fairly easy transition into something maybe less structured like hockey?
That's a good question. I like the discipline of like having something to go to after school for sure. But I am naturally a competitive person, so I think that's where hockey kind of took over, where you can be competitive with dance, you go to competitions and stuff, but you can compete every day at hockey. And whether it was just racing into the corner and bumping heads with like my best friend, Abby Safford, and just falling down and giggling at one another, but I was definitely more competitive at hockey, so that's kind of probably why I leaned into that more.
Yeah. How competitive were you with your brother?
Oh my gosh. Everything was a competition with me and my brother, but in a healthy way. He's 3 years younger than me, which I think is perfect age gap.
Take it easy on him a little bit or no?
Well, my friends aren't his friends and his friends aren't my friends. Our like friend groups don't really like overlap, where I feel like if we were separated by like 2 years, there would be more of like an overlap. So when it came to being competitive. I was on the first ever hockey team with my brother, like Mike Bees. So it was my age and he was playing with me. And this is the time where like everyone played goalie. So he played a lot of goalie, even though he's not a goalie anymore and stuff. But yeah, those are some of my like favorite memories, just going to the rink with my brother. I would do anything to go back for sure.
Did you have to play goalies for Might Be?
See,
you snuck out. You snuck out of the crease.
I mean, I don't want this to sound like anything like weird or anything, but I was like always just like kind of a natural goal scorer at that age and just skated better than kids, so they did not want to put me in the net. Versus like, let's put the youngest kid on the team who's kind of wild in the net and that doesn't mind getting pucks to the head at that age. So yeah.
So you knew your role early.
Yeah, I definitely did.
Good. So here's what I'm wondering. I noticed a lot of penalty minutes in your sophomore season, maybe freshman, sophomore season at Boston College, and then your junior season, you swapped out penalty minutes with points, and that was sort of your breakout season. What was going on there between 2021 around when things like really shifted for you in your like kind of on the stats sheet?
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was kicked out of 2 games my sophomore year at Boston College, and the first one was on Breast Cancer Awareness Night. Tough. It was around this time. I was talking about it because it was around this time. Just recently I was talking about it because it was around this time last year because we had a Halloween party, and I dressed up as a nerd, and I was just like so excited to go out after that call. It was against me, and I could pull up the video if you wanted me to. The girl toe picked in the corner. Hockey refs are soft. I remember my club coach, Mike Maloney, like being like texting me after the game and being like, "That was so soft," and I'm like out at a house party, and I'm like, "I'm sorry, I can't talk about this right now." And then we went down to Nashville for Thanksgiving and played against the Gophers. So I had played against the Gophers when I was at Boston College. And I have some pictures with playing against some of my good buddies now. And then we came back and we played against BU right before Christmas break. And it was one of those things where the second time I got kicked out, me and a girl just kind of collided over the blue line. We were just coming like head to head, and they kind of called it like a head shot on my part. So anything to the head-ish, they tossed me for, but I was rattled. So, but going back to like swapping the penalty minutes for like points and stuff, I mean, that was COVID year. So I really knew the severity of like what was going on in the world, and I didn't want to like contribute to anyone like losing family members or getting anyone sick. So I was really disciplined with, separating myself, isolating myself, and it did suck at times, like not going out and not hanging out with people and trying to make the right decisions, but I did not miss a game that year, and I think that's what contributed to my success. When you think about that year, probably some better players were not in the lineups as much because they weren't maybe doing the right things or just kind of getting, COVID traced and stuff. But I was doing everything in my power to not get, contact traced or get sick. And I think that's what helped me a lot. And that was also, I was injured the summer before. So I was like doing a lot of rehab, and I was just genuinely so excited to get back and be fully ready to go on the ice. So I feel like a combination of all that stuff, being injured the summer before and being so excited to want to play and not want to miss any games contributed to that.
Yeah, it sounds like kind of the perfect storm of factors, because that seemed like it almost changed the trajectory for your hockey career. I mean, you're getting invited to national camps and transferring to the U, and ultimately, obviously, you're where you are. Here's what I want to know, though. I mean, from growing up Boston hockey, and then choosing to move over here to Minnesota hockey, the cultures are so different. What did you find to be like the biggest surprise moving from, besides calling them breezers, from Boston to Minnesota.
Yeah, it was like joining the dark side because, I mean, going to national camps and U18 camps growing up, there was like definitely, I mean, maybe it was me that understood like the rivalry. I mean, Miracle on Ice, you understand the rivalry between the Boston kids and the Minnesota kids for sure. And I had never made an under U18 team, so I had always thought that there was some bias towards Minnesota kids. And when I look back, like 100% they deserved to be there over me. I wasn't ready, and it's hard to come to terms with like at that age when you think that you should be on a team and stuff. But really, at that time, those kids were better than me. But I mean, the biggest difference, it's kind of hard. I mean, I came out here because people eat, sleep, breathe hockey. And I think as I got older, I was starting to feel isolated in that sense that, like, not a lot of my peers really were feeling that way. And I thought something was a little bit, like, wrong with me. Like, do I care too much? And there wasn't a lot of pro stuff going on at that time. I mean, maybe over in Europe, but I knew I wanted to play hockey after college, and I kind of had to make some tough decisions, and I honestly lost a lot of friends in that process, a lot of childhood friends, and that was the hardest part about coming out here was, you know, people didn't really understand why I was doing what I was doing, and I had everything. I was a big fish in a little pond there, and I was coming out here where there were so many good hockey players. I knew I was going to be a smaller fish in a bigger pond, but ultimately I knew that I was going to have a chance at going to the national tournament every year, playing in the best league, the WCHA, and, you know, playing after college and a chance to have an actual chance to run for like a national championship, which we did at my time with the Gophers. So couldn't really ask for much more.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's a lot of factors that go into making those decisions. So, but it seems like it worked out well. And then you get an opportunity to be on one of the first rosters of the very first, like, legitimized women's professional stage. And that is, I mean, it's just a dream of any hockey players that, you know, from decades before, you know. So how exciting. I would love for you to shed a little bit of light on just that feeling of I guess, the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so fortunate that I was around the right people at the right time that told me to, like, hold on, and, you know, the league was going to form older girls in the national team program that kind of knew more stuff that I didn't know, that were just like, hold on, just like stay training, stay ready.
It's like giving me chills.
Stay ready to go. And I just being in the right. If I was in Boston, I don't know if that would have been the case. You know, when you think about it, like just being around some like girls like Kelly Panic and Lee Steckline, like saying there's something's gonna come to fruition. Like just stay put, like keep working hard. And that was just, it was hard because a lot of girls were like signing contracts to go over to Europe, signing contracts in the PHF, and I could have signed in the PHF to go back home and play for the Boston Pride, but I was just like, I need to hold off, and that was really the hardest part. But thinking about the league, and I just graduated at the most perfect time, and I'm very lucky that that was just my case scenario. And I played in the first game up in Toronto on New Year's Day, and I always wanted to like sort of give back to my parents in a certain way. So I had asked both my mom and my dad like which games they would want to go to, and that I'd like fully take care of their everything, their flight, their hotel. And my dad said he wanted to come to Minnesota and watch at the XL, and my mom said she wanted to be there on opening day. So I was like, okay, I will treat you to the trip. And I took care of everything for my mom coming up to that game, and that game was a bloodbath. And I just remember running up the stairs to her after that game, and we were both just like crying in each other's arms. There was like no words to describe like what had happened. And I think when I think about it all, like I want my kids someday to be able to turn the TV on and know that there's nothing like nothing but like professional women's hockey on like the NHL. Like they know nothing different versus like I grew up in a time where there wasn't that on TV, and college was the D1 was like the end all be all. So,
yeah. Oh, I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Like literally I'm living vicariously. I'm one of these people who would have loved to have that opportunity. So it's so cool to hear your rendition or kind of your perspective, because so many incredible hockey players and women got that opportunity, and I want to hear from all of them what it was like for sure. But that is so cool. Like really, congrats.
Yeah, I mean, and I do understand that there are so many people that have come before me, like I think of like Julie Chu and even Natalie Darwitz just being pioneers for the game, Courtney Kennedy, and they pushed those barriers way, way before I did, and I just I got lucky with the time of things. So I only ever try to be grateful and just honored and spread my love for the game because of all the hard work those people have done for me.
Cool.
All right, now I've got a question for you. You mentioned being grateful and being humble, and obviously that's important, but how do you balance being grateful for the opportunity you've been given, but also wanting and demanding more? Because the PWHL is not going to succeed beyond this season without the women in the league demanding more. So how do you balance the humility, but also knowing that you have more than a right to be at the table?
Yeah, see, that's kind of a hard question because I'm younger in the league, so I haven't really experienced super much, like a lot of pro hockey, whereas girls that are 10, 8 years older than me have been out of college for a little bit, played in like the PWHPA, and, you know, they had to pay for their flights to go to their tournament style of games.
Or carpool.
Yeah, exactly, and even like post-game meals and stuff, so I really have, like, given that to them in the sense to, you know, lead the way, like what's right and wrong, because I try not to complain, and it's not like they're complaining at all, but they are standing up for like what they believe in and what's right. And I know things aren't going to be perfect all the time, but you're right, there is like a balance, but I just don't feel like I'm equipped enough to know really what's right and wrong now. I could kind of give my 2 cents, but I think I need a little bit more experience with pro hockey to understand that.
Do you think your philosophy is the consensus among the younger players? You mentioned Lee Steckline and Kelly Panic, and part of that, please, Lee and Kelly, don't kill me for saying this, the old guard of women's hockey who aren't going to let the younger players forget what they went through. But do you think that your thought process is the consensus among younger players? To sort of let go and let the veteran players take the lead in some of the negotiations?
Yeah, I think that is the consensus, and I think that should be, because it's gotten to this point, you know, because of the pushing that they've done, and I'm grateful that I have people like them that have pushed for a league like this to blossom. And I mean, I think the younger kids just don't know any better right now for what's right and what's wrong. So I mean, some people that have maybe more like national team experience might have a better idea than me, but yeah, I feel like a lot of the younger kids are just like, we're happy to be here and do what we can and kind of follow the lead because it's gotten to this point, and I don't mind doing that right now for sure. I know there will be a day where my opinion will matter more, so I'll let them kind of drive the bus right now.
That is a very humble attitude, and it's neat to hear that, and that type of attitude. And then that's something that younger girls can hear and know. And it is like back to that know your role. And then you're picking up nuggets along the way so that when it's your turn, you can be a solid leader. And that's a great kind of message to send to any younger listeners right now, just like that theory of knowing your role and that how it makes everything kind of move along.
Yeah. And talking about like knowing your role too, like with a team, I think there's also room for expansion too, in the sense of, you know, if you're this type of player, that doesn't mean you can add parts to your game too and expand your role. And I just don't ever want coaches to kind of tell a kid, because I've had coaches tell me this is what you do and this is the only thing you do, but it's like
pigeonhole you.
Yeah, exactly, and kind of put you in a box. And I have always kind of, this is where my like prove people wrong sort of attitude has come in and be like, okay, you have me in this box, but I'm going to shatter that for sure and expand my role too at the same time. But it's knowing your role is important as well, for sure.
You say proving people wrong, but it seems like your career trajectory has gone like this. So who did you have to prove wrong? If you were always a gifted goal scorer and you played at BC and you played at the U, is it an internal thing that you convince yourself that you have to prove people wrong?
I think my mindset's shift a lot this summer. A lot of the top athletes that I've ran into, not just hockey players, have this sort of like swag to them. It's like a confidence. They don't need to like tell everyone they're good or tell everyone what they're doing, their formula, blah, blah, blah. But they like have this like aura to them. Like they know what they're doing. They have confidence in that. And that's something that I've just been trying to emulate all summer. But yeah, I've had people tell me that I won't play Division I hockey at U18 camps and stuff, and I was actually already committed. And so I'm like,
dumbasses.
Great, yeah.
Kill,
so
job opening.
I'm like triggered by that. But I mean, I think of little things. I mean, when going from mites to squirts, I was put on a squirt B team, and I remember being like, damn, like I deserve to be on squirt A. So I've always kind of had this like prove people wrong mentality, but at the same time, like I'm proving to myself that I'm capable of breaking ceilings and stuff. And at the end of the day, it matters more to me what I think about myself rather than like a coach or a teammate. Like if I know I'm a good person at the end of the day, then that's it. I don't really care what anyone else has to say about me because they don't know me like I know myself.
That's a great way to stay focused. And you had mentioned some interest in starting a foundation. So it sounds like you are a good person. So check. And then will you talk to us a little bit about where you would focus your energy when and if you ever have time to formally start a foundation?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think that mental health is super important and is something that just is very, very near and dear to my heart because I mean, full transparency, I've struggled here and there with anxiety, depression, and I've had some family members too struggle with OCD, and I just really want to be able to help, honestly, more so males. My brother, struggles with some OCD here and there, and I've had to have some tough conversations with him, and I've seen some people be some real, excuse my language, assholes to him about stuff like that. And I just don't think that's fair. He's a hell of a hockey player. And if that means that he's overwhelmed sometimes and deals with different things differently and the brain just reacts different, like everyone's different. So it's something that's near and dear to my heart. And I just want to support, especially males that don't feel like they can talk about their feelings and or have a bad day because everyone wants to use your weaknesses against you too. But your weaknesses can also be your strengths and make you a better person, hockey player, athlete in general. So that stuff touches near and dear to my heart because I wouldn't want any opportunities stripped away from kids because of just like challenges they've had. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does make sense.
Awesome.
It also makes sense now that you've majored in psychology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've always really liked understanding the brain and like how people work too. I feel like I'm a pretty good people person and can read energy like well. And I mean, I'm not right all the time, but I think I can pick up pretty well like on people's intentions and stuff. So, yeah, and I would say like at Boston College, I was pretty much an open book to everyone, but then like with the transferring process and losing friends and losing people that supported me that I thought would always be there for me made me kind of hold my cards a little bit closer to my chest. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah.
Interesting.
Should we move on to a happier topic?
Yeah, I mean,
Wow,
I'm not talking to you all day.
We're swimming with the Titanic
talk
right
about
now.
another foundation, though. I played in a golf invitational this summer for a sports psychologist that I worked with closely here, Dr. Allie Wagner, and I think that would be cool, too. I'm not much of a golfer, but
I saw your swing look great.
I don't play much, but I like to get out there and compete, and I just feel like that would be also another great way to get a bunch of different types of athletes together too, not just hockey players. So something along the lines of that, give back to my hometown. I really want to give back to my hometown some way, but this guy, and I just have to think through some things. I want to give back to as many people as I can. So
You got to rein it in a little.
yeah, exactly. But those two things for sure, the mental health, and then just like, honestly, kids with disabilities for sure, you know.
Yeah.
But that, I feel like that comes with me just being like extremely grateful for where I am and all that I've like gotten through my career. So
You also seem like a really empathetic person.
too much.
Too much sometimes.
Seriously, too much sometimes where people like can abuse that. But I've definitely learned that that's not a bad thing at all. I'd rather be, a shoulder for a buddy to cry on, talk to, than someone say, oh my God, you cannot talk to her about that because she'll judge you and stuff. So, yeah.
It sounds like you're in line for a captaincy with the New York Sirens.
You know, I think we have the best leaders on 100%. I don't think I've had as great of a captain as I've had. Micah Zandy Hart is unbelievable. Ella Shelton too, and Alex Carpenter, who were A's, but Micah is awesome. She's unbelievable. I'd love to get you guys in contact with her.
We'll fly out.
We all got cell phones.
We'll
we all have
fly
email
out.
addresses. We are also starting a nonprofit and thinking about a golf tournament. So
Count me in.
we might
You're in.
be
You're on the
in
team.
contact with Savannah Norcross.
You are on the team.
Coming up. All right, Joss, fire away. You got anything?
Well, I mean, I respect your time, and I know that you've got a Zoom call you want to get to. So, hopefully, I'd love to even get you back sometime because this has been great, and you're somebody that I'm going to continue to follow. So, thank you so much for coming in and spending some time with us and being our second episode, first interview for real.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
guys.
Now you're a friend of the pod, and let us know anything we could do to help you out.
Same goes.
Thank you.
There's no way around, I'm top of the mount, I'm queen of the mountain. My cup running over, I already told ya, I'm moving fast. You living